The slippery slope argument claims that one decision will inevitably lead to a chain of related events leading to an undesirable or bad outcome. The slippery slope argument is commonly considered fallacious, lacking evidence or a logical connection between the initial action and the predicted outcome. The slippery slope fallacy weakness lies in its reliance on speculation rather than evidence. However, when supported by evidence and a logical connection between the steps, a high probability of the predicted consequences can be demonstrated, and the slippery slope argument becomes non-fallacious. There can be a slippery slope arguments that don't rely on speculation. Typically considered a fallacy, it can be argued that the slippery slope argument can also be considered non-fallacious. There are three types of slippery slope arguments: the causal slippery slope, the precedential slippery slope, and the conceptual slippery slope. Being able to identify the type of slippery slope arguments and understanding if the concept is supported by evidence or a logical connection should be considered when predicting an outcome with a slippery slope argument. Causal slippery slope suggests a link where each event triggers the next. There must be at least two actions taken where its first action takes sets of reaction that reinforces itself. This slippery slope is also known as the predictive slippery slope. An example of a causal slippery slope could be arguing that if students are allowed to use cell phones in class, their grades will plummet. They will fail academically and later be unemployed and homeless adults. In this case, it's argued that a small change can lead to other actions resulting in dramatic negative results. Allowing cell phones in the class creates a distraction that triggers academic failure and continues triggering actions that dramatically end in students becoming homeless adults. While it can be considered that cell phones could be a distraction, it cannot directly link into the future homelessness. Precedential slippery slope argues that treating a minor issue in a specific way creates a precedent, forcing similar treatment for more extreme cases in the future. This slippery slope is based on treating similar cases in the same or consistent manner. An example of a precedential slippery slope could be that if we legalize a relatively harmless drug now, we would have to legalize more harmful drugs in the future. In this argument, legal or historic precedents, statistical studies, and supporting evidence can be taken into consideration to understand the reasonable outcome. This argument could hold more weight on the outcome of future events by demonstrating evidence. Conceptual slippery slope is an argument that a lack of distinction between issues means no distinction can be made. It argues that if issues are similar with no meaningful difference between them, they should not be treated equally. An example of conceptual slippery slope could be arguing that if we allow euthanasia for pets, we should allow it for humans. This argument would need to consider if the issues are actually as similar as initially proposed. It can take into account variables such as people's morals, different cultures, and religions. Concepts can vary when considered by different people, creating more than one definite theory with different outcomes. Although typically considered a fallacy, it can be argued that the slippery slope argument can also consider it non-fallacious. Understanding if this slippery slope argument is fallacious or reasonable, it can help properly respond to people who use them. So in conclusion, people should consider statistics, proof of linked consequences, and supporting evidence before relying on the slippery slope argument or brushing it off as fallacious. I'm Xavier Rodriguez, and thank you so much for listening to my slippery slope fallacy. Have a good one.